music industry I think you could possibly do as a producer, as an A&R guy working for labels over the years. And also I should point out that the building that the Rock Hall Library and Archives is in, the great Creative Arts Center over in Tri-C, is named after Mr. LiPuma. So thanks for coming out tonight. And then I should introduce you to this gentleman right here on my left, the great Mr. Leon Russell, Hall of Fame. Leon's done over the years. It's really a staggering amount of work. You really sit down like I did over the last week, going back and looking at it, thinking about the music he's recorded, the songs he's written. You know, just to share a small anecdote, when we had Aretha Franklin here just a few years ago and honored her in our Music Master series at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, she came on stage and chose to play only one song that she wanted to play for the audience that night. The song she picked was a song for you by Leon. One of the great things we're going to be talking about tonight, of course, is Leon's new record, Life Journey. How many of you got here heard it? Yeah! Fantastic record, produced by Tommy LiPuma. And we're going to talk a little bit about the record tonight. But, you know, before we get doing that, I wanted to start this evening. One of the things that you even mentioned, Leon, in the liner notes of the record, is that having Tommy produce this new album for you, it wasn't, you know, a first meeting. In fact, you guys have got about a 50-year history with each other, right?
Well, not really. I mean, I met him about 45 or 50 years ago, and I was working on publishing them with Jackie and Shannon, and Tommy was a promotion man, too.
Right.
Didn't really make any records together until this, I think. Except when he said something about the Elton John.
Well, you did an OJ session. And also, when I
Is that
first
just
started,
Dick Traces? Is that the same session? Right?
Was that
the OJs? Yeah.
but prior to that, when I started making demos for publishing, I asked Leon, you know, if he would, I hired him basically to play on the demo.
Yeah.
And he was an immense.
Main thing is I like to eat.
Right. And then you had to play, right? Yeah. Did you like playing out more at that point in time, or doing the studio work?
Well, I don't know. It was an odd time. The Musicians Union, I didn't belong to the local. So if I wanted to belong to the local and play in nightclubs, I had to not work for a year. They called it, if you had a different union number, mine was in Tulsa. They called it homesteading. And I called them Nazis, and we had a bad fight. And so I had to borrow union cards and IDs and stuff. And then the week that I turned 21, I started playing a lot of record dates and never playing those kind of years.
Right. Very interesting. Now, let's come forward and think a little bit about, you know, the new record and the fact that you guys are now working together, and like you said, really recording together for the first time, even though you had been in kind of the same circles. You know, Leon, we got to mention the record, The Union, with Elton John, a fantastic album. Can you tell us a little bit about working with Elton John and how he kind of wanted to work with you and really kind of bring you back to a different type of recording?
Well, I kept waiting for somebody to come and bring me back. Nobody came except Elton finally came. And it wasn't as though I talked to him every day. I hadn't talked to him in 35 years.
Wow.
He opened some shows for me back in those days. He took off like a flash.
Yeah.
I looked at his shows and I said, my career is over. But he helped. What was the question?
Oh, I was just wondering how Elton came to you with the idea of making the album.
Oh yeah, he said, well, would you like to make the record? And I said, sure, I'd like to do that. But it was an interesting proposition I was sitting there at one point, and Elton was in the studio writing songs, and I was sitting next to Bernie, who writes his lyrics. He said, you know, this is an interesting thing. I've been writing with this guy for 25 years, and he's never let anybody watch him. And we're all sitting in here watching him, so it's something different. It was a lot of fun. He's a very fast writer, and he's one of those guys that I myself, when I'm writing, I have to write and record on the computer at the same time, because when I get to the second verse, I've forgotten what the first one was. But Elton, he writes this stuff and he seems to remember it forever. Very fast, and he remembers. Brilliant. I enjoyed working with him.
So when it came time to, do I have it correct that Elton suggested Tommy to produce it? Is that right?
No,
I'm not always right.
but you're never wrong.
That's right, exactly.
No, he wanted me to have a producer.
Okay, that's what it was.
And I never had a producer. I mean, even though people's names were on my records, you made the records. And so we considered several people, and I just ran into Tommy at the Montrose Festival.
Sure.
And asked him if he had time to do it. He said, yeah, I'll make time. I'll do it. So I was excited about that. I was a little bit concerned first that he might have jazz damage.
What's jazz damage? You want to tell us?
Well, jazz is a four-letter word that I wouldn't even let my children say. But jazz music in general, the jazz people, they prefer spontaneous melody writing to time and rhythm and stuff like that. They sacrifice rhythm and time a lot of times just to be able to do that spontaneous melody writing. Spontaneous melody writing is great. It's better if you record it and play it again instead of playing 200 every night and you never get played again.
Right.
Kind of weird. So I don't know. It turned out he didn't have jazz damage. He was a blues singer like myself. So that turned out to be great.
Tommy, what did you think?
Yeah, he didn't know it either. I told that in an interview.
But, so in any event, you know, at one point, we sold Blue Phil, and Leon and Denny ended up at EMI, Capital. And we sort of lost track with one another, but I didn't lose track with him as far as what he was doing. And it was an absolutely brilliant period. And there wasn't a song that I heard on any one of these albums that just didn't kill me. As it turns out, there was one song that he did on a great album called Carney. And it was called This Masquerade. And right at that time, I was doing George Benson. And you know, George and I had been talking about it. I had actually just heard George sing for the first time. Because I wasn't aware of the fact. You know, he had done some things. He'd done some things I wasn't aware of.
Okay.
And then I read, he was working this club called Keystone Corner in San Francisco.